Have you ever wondered what life was like for our ancestors, long before the first words were ever written down? It's a period shrouded in mystery, a time we call prehistory. For a long time, we pictured them as simple, brutish cavemen, but the reality is so much more fascinating. These were people just like us, with complex minds, deep emotions, and an incredible understanding of the world around them. So, how did they live? What did they know? And how did they pass on their wisdom without a single book? Let's journey back in time and uncover the lost knowledge of our prehistoric ancestors. First, let's talk about survival, because that was job number one. Prehistoric people were master botanists and zoologists. They had to be. Their local environment was their supermarket, pharmacy, and hardware store all rolled into one. They knew which plants were safe to eat, which were poisonous, and which could be used as medicine. Imagine knowing, just by looking at a leaf or a berry, whether it could heal a wound, soothe a fever, or cause a stomachache. They learned this through generations of trial, error, and careful observation, passing this vital knowledge down from parent to child. They weren't just gathering plants. They were expert hunters. They understood animal behavior in ways that would astound a modern biologist. They knew the migration patterns of herds, the favorite watering holes, the subtle signs an animal leaves behind. They could read the landscape like a map, tracking prey for days across vast territories. Their tools, which we often see in museums, weren't just crude rocks. A flint arrowhead or a stone axe was a masterpiece of engineering, perfectly balanced and crafted for a specific purpose. Creating one required a deep understanding of physics and geology, knowing which rocks would fracture in just the right way to create a sharp, durable edge. And what about where they lived? Forget the simple caveman image. Prehistoric people were skilled architects and engineers. From the intricate mammoth bone huts of Eastern Europe to the early timber structures we've found traces of, they built shelters designed to withstand the elements. They knew how to select the right materials, how to position their homes to take advantage of sunlight and avoid the wind, and how to create a space that was both safe and comfortable for their families. They were the original innovators in sustainable living. But their knowledge wasn't just about the practicalities of food and shelter. They had a rich and complex inner world. Look at the stunning cave paintings in places like Lascaux in France or Altamira in Spain. These aren't just doodles, they are breathtaking works of art, showing a keen eye for detail and a deep connection to the animal world. The artists used sophisticated techniques, grinding minerals to create pigments, and using the cave's natural contours to give their paintings a three-dimensional feel. These paintings were likely part of important rituals, stories, or spiritual beliefs. They tell us that these people were not just surviving, they were thinking, feeling, and expressing themselves in profound ways. They were also the world's first astronomers. Before light pollution washed out the night sky, the stars were a brilliant, blazing spectacle. Prehistoric people used them as a compass and a calendar. They observed the cycles of the sun, moon, and stars to track the changing seasons. This was crucial for knowing when to hunt certain animals, when to gather specific plants, and when to move to new territories. Monuments like Stonehenge in England are aligned with incredible precision to the solstices. Building something like that required advanced knowledge of astronomy, mathematics, and engineering, all coordinated within a large community, without a single written blueprint. Speaking of community, that was the key to everything. Knowledge wasn't stored in books. It was stored in people. It was shared through stories, songs, dances, and rituals. Elders were the libraries of their tribes, their minds holding generations of accumulated wisdom. A story about a trickster coyote might also contain a lesson about which mushrooms are dangerous. A ceremonial dance might reenact a successful hunt, teaching the younger generation the techniques they would need to survive. This oral tradition was incredibly robust. It was a living, breathing network of information that bound the community together and ensured its survival. They also had a deep understanding of social dynamics. Living in small, tight-knit groups required sophisticated rules for cooperation, sharing resources, and resolving conflicts. Archaeological evidence suggests they cared for the sick and elderly, showing a capacity for empathy and compassion that we like to think of as modern. They traded with other groups over long distances, which required navigation, diplomacy, and a shared understanding of value. These were the very first social networks, built on trust and mutual respect. So, when we think of prehistory, let's move beyond the stereotypes. These were not primitive people. They were pioneers, scientists, artists, and storytellers. They possessed an encyclopedic knowledge of their natural world, a sophisticated understanding of the cosmos, and a rich cultural and spiritual life. They laid the groundwork for everything that came after. Every farm, every city, every book, every scientific discovery owes something to the knowledge first discovered and passed down by our ancestors in the deep, silent expanse of time before history was written. The world they knew might be lost to us in its detail, but their legacy of ingenuity, resilience, and curiosity lives on in all of us. Thanks so much for watching. If you found this journey into our deep past as fascinating as I do, please hit that like button and subscribe for more explorations into the story of humanity. See you next time.